Hi there, it's Brett Hornby back here with another Calgary sports take. I actually got some Calgary Flames news to share with you that's happened recently. But before I dive into what I'm going to talk about with the Calgary Flames today, is this: if you're looking for someone who is going to cover Calgary sports and entertainment and occasionally share my scenery videos on my holidays, for example, when I go west of the Canadian Rockies or east of the prairies or anywhere else I go in the world, and any moments I capture at sporting events, and also the odd vlog or rant. So if you want to find out more information on all that, just hit like and subscribe and follow me on my YouTube channel. Anyway, back to what I'm going to talk about here. In recent days here, this wouldn't be too much of a surprise, especially national media and local media has been speculating and calling that the Flames should do this, that they put Troy Brouwer on unconditional waivers for the purposes of buying out. Not surprisingly, considering he still had 2 years left on his contract at $4.5 million per season for his cap hit. No one claimed him, so the Calgary Flames completed the buyout of Troy Brouwer. And unfortunately, this didn't work out for him. He signed a four-year deal worth $4.5 million back in 2016, and didn't quite come as originally advertised. He originally started with the Chicago Blackhawks. I don't know where I got Colorado from, but he started his career with the Chicago Blackhawks, including winning the Stanley Cup with them in 2010. And then he also played a couple seasons with the Washington Capitals. And then the season before he signed a 4-year deal with the Calgary Flames, he was actually a beast for the St. Louis Blues and played a big part in their success when they went to the conference finals. So the Flames have been weak on the right wing for many years, especially after trading away Jerome McGinley, that they thought Troy Brouwer would have been a nice fit, be up on the front line with Sean Monahan and Johnny Gaudreau striking up the right side. And as a bonus, he's from Vancouver, but as a bonus, he was actually going to start setting up shop and set some roots here and build a house here. I heard he was building a house and lives out in Springbank, which is on the far west end of Calgary there. That's definitely where the upper class citizens live, but definitely you get a nice view of the Canadian Rockies right there. But it's nice to know that players who come here and visit here aren't from here and decide to set up roots here. But I was just going to bring up some numbers here on Troy Brouwer on why he was quite a disappointment, and my take on why eventually this buyout was a necessary evil. It's kind of the last case scenario because as when I break down the numbers here, you save some cap space now, but you'll be paying for some of it a few years down the road. But anyway, Troy Brouwer did start his WHL career with the Moose Jaw Warriors. I actually remember when I was at the Boston Pizza in Moose Jaw that they actually had a Troy Brouwer Moose Jaw Warriors jersey in the Boston Pizza at Moose Jaw a couple years ago, so they definitely recognized his alumni there. And then he played from the Chicago Blackhawks starting in 2006-07 season. He was actually drafted in 2014. Let's look it up here. Actually 214th overall in the 7th round by Chicago, so that's actually a nice find, all things considered. And looking over his salary history, when he was, cutting teeth with the Chicago Blackhawks, he was only making just over $1 million, and then he eventually made another contract for after he after his entry level in his next contract, his salary went up to $2.3 million with the Chicago Blackhawks, and then his next big contract, he played 3 seasons with the Washington Capitals, he signed for 3 years, $11 million for the whole contract. So that was $3.6667 million a season. And then when he went to then he got, I know he got traded to St. Louis, I believe. And I think the Washington Capitals definitely gave up. I think that's where TJ Oshie came from, St. Louis, in the first round draft pick in that deal, if I recall. But he only played one season in the St. Louis Blues before becoming an unrestricted free agent, and then he signed a 4-year deal with $4.5 million a season, $18 million overall. But things just didn't work out. As if you look at his career numbers, production-wise, I mean, his best season goals-wise, he had 25 goals and 18 assists for 43 points. That was his last season with the Washington Capitals in 2013-14, and then his only season with the St. Louis Blues, he had 18 goals, 21 assists, and 39 points. And then the playoffs that year, when the Blues actually went to the conference finals, and eventually they lost to the Nashville Predators that year because they went to the finals and then they got bowed out by the Pittsburgh Penguins. He had 8 goals, 5 assists for 13 points and 26 penalty minutes, and I believe he scored the series winner against the Chicago Blackhawks in the first round that year. So the Flames thought it was one heck of a deal to plug him up on the top line after when Calgary missed the playoffs because they made the playoffs in 2015 and then had a disappointing season in 2016, and I felt we needed some more scoring up front, especially on the right side where organizationally the team's been weak. And then did actually make the playoffs, not because of him, but he was definitely a part of it. Part of the team that went on the nice run, but he was so-so in the first season with the Flames. He was in 74 games. He did score 13 goals, 12 assists for 25 points, and then I stressed a very brief cameo that the Flames had in the playoffs in 2017. In 4 games, he had 2 assists, but he was just hoping that maybe he'll rebound. But then the last season with the Calgary Flames in 17-18, this was actually his worst career totals. Where in 76 games, he only scored 6 goals, 16 assists for 22 points. And that's definitely his worst career totals. I know that knowing for up to his career, he was definitely known as the check-in forward who can, give you 20 goals and 45 points, and that's what the Flames originally signed up for. But fortunately, with 2 years left on his contract, and with all the free agent signings, I mean, if you look at just the right wing position alone and all the free agent signings that the Flames made for Troy Brouwer, I mean, James Neal coming in, which we'll see how that contract works out, but James Neal is definitely an upgrade. He'll probably likely be on the first line. Then they still got Michael Frolik, who's a check-in forward, who definitely still been a solid addition for the Calgary Flames up to this point. He's on the second line, and then they anticipate that Derek Ryan, who got signed from Carolina in this offseason. I do have my free agency video that I made just after when Calgary did their free agent signings July 1st. You can take a look at that video and give my take on all their signings. But I'm going down to the third line with Derek Ryan, so Troy Brouwer, if he was still going to be on this team, he would be buried on the fourth line, which that's definitely too much to be spending $4.5 million on just to put someone on the fourth line. And on top of that, with all the signings that we brought in, like Austin Czarnik, and I know it's one guy, and then we have a couple guys in the farm, like Andrew Mangiapane, but the big name that I'm definitely intrigued to see, he's a natural right winger, is Spencer Fu. This will definitely open up a spot for him, potentially from camp. He's a natural right winger that we signed from Union College. He struggled a bit in Stockton in the first half, but in the second half he definitely picked up his scoring and made a couple of contributions the last 2 games of the season for the Flames, scoring a goal and assist, and maybe this opens up the door for him. But how the buyout works, is that, for example, in this case of Troy Brouwer, he has 2 years left at $9 million. So what happens is that when it comes to the cap numbers, you'd spread out, you pay him 2/3 remaining on his contract spread over double the term. So right now, before the buyout, the Flames actually only had just under $4.5 million in cap space, or 4.5, yeah. And then they bought out Troy Brouwer. Now they're up to $7.5 million in cap space because they're going to be paying him $1.5 million the next 4 seasons. But the next 2 seasons that he still was under contract with the Flames will stay $3 million. I mean, because if you take 4.5 minus 3, that's $1.5 million. So I mean, at $6 million, he'll get paid over the next 4 seasons to not be a Flame anymore. Unfortunately, you're still going to have 2 more seasons beyond that, which would be the 2021 and 2021-22 season. That you're still going to see $1.5 million for Troy Brouwer on the cap. But with the cap keep rising, I mean, from a business sense, I mean, this definitely made sense. But I mean, from business and a hockey sense, I mean, the Flames will likely still miss Troy Brouwer for basically his personality and leadership, because he still provided that. I mean, he wore an A in any playoff experience that he has with winning the Stanley Cup and going deep in the playoffs. Definitely still rubs off on the team, and the Flames will definitely miss that. And he was definitely active in the community, and who knows if he'll probably still be sticking around the Calgary market Calgary area if he wanted to set up roots here. And it just worked out at the time that he had a job. There was a job opening for him, and the Flames offered him the deal that they offered. And that's the thing with the free agent frenzy, is you're likely going to be paying someone a little too much money and maybe give them too much term. And that's what I say about the James Neal deal right now, but it hasn't played out yet. And that's the one thing you can say is a little weak with Brad Treliving since he took over as general manager. I think he's drafted well and is definitely not scared to make big trades. I mean, his first big trade at the draft was getting Dougie Hamilton, and then he made another trade in 2017 to get Travis Hamonic. And then this past season, you can see that video, my take on trading away Dougie Hamilton, which also leads into why the other reason that the Flames probably need the cap space right now is that one of the players that they got in the Dougie Hamilton trade was Noah Hanifin, and there's rumors out there that he's looking for a long-term contract extension, and now we have $7.5 million in cap space coming in the next season. There's rumors that Noah Hanifin is going to be taking at least $5 million, maybe $6, who knows, but they're still, negotiating that because he's just an RFA right now. But anyway, I mean, that's why this move had to be made. It's usually a last case scenario, because the other thing is that if you have a stinky contract, I mean, I'm sure the Flames are trying to trade it, it's either you're going to be taking a stinky contract on, which you basically shoveling out money, or if you find a team that would definitely want to take your stinky contract, but it's like, yeah, where you're going to have to tack on a draft pick and some prospects, which is that worth the price to pay to get cap space? And there's definitely some prospects, and we definitely traded away a lot of picks, especially this past year, that it wasn't worth doing that. But where I see Troy Brouwer, I mean, he's played over 750 games in the NHL. I could still see him potentially, let's say if he wants to stay close to Calgary, I could definitely see fits for him in the Western Conference. I mean, right away, apparently the Canucks were interested in him in 2016, maybe up north, up in Edmonton. Or you got teams, or I think maybe this is where Colorado came in, that teams like Colorado and Vegas, they got tons of cap space. But if Troy Brouwer is going to continue playing in the NHL as soon as this season, he'll likely go on as a PTO, as a professional tryout, or accept, just a 1-year deal worth $1 million. I mean, I don't know if it's just the system. I mean, he only played under Glenn Gulch, and I thought maybe he would have a chance to play under Bill Peters here in Calgary, but then, with all the signings that they made, and it just didn't make sense to put him on the fourth line, spending $4.5 million to play like less than 10 minutes. I mean, he wasn't good on the power play. Neither was the Flames power play at all, but it's hard to say where you can see Troy Brouwer at this stage, or, he's 32. His father Tom caught up with him that maybe he has to redefine his game and just be a plug or energy guy on the fourth line. But who knows? I mean, the other player that, you could maybe also go back to St. Louis or Washington, where he had his initial success, where he had more success after he was building up with the Chicago Blackhawks. But I mean, to come up with another comparison of a player that I think that plays well at a certain situation but didn't excel elsewhere else was here in Calgary, that Craig Conroy. I mean, he had his best seasons with Calgary. I mean, he was a checking forward, but then he came here and found a little bit of a scoring touch. And then after the Calgary Flames went to the Stanley Cup Finals in 2004, Craig Conroy signed a big, expensive contract with the Los Angeles Kings, but he wasn't working out there. And then the Flames brought back Craig Conroy, and he eventually found a little bit of a scoring touch again. And plus, he's well liked in the community, obviously. But I say Troy Brouwer outside the rink, he's definitely well liked in the community. And then one last thing I want to mention before I close things here, but the interesting thing with social media is that we get a little more contact with our fans or players and the media. Sometimes, I'm trying to be as objective on this video because, I'm just stating the facts that, things didn't work out for Troy Brouwer here in Calgary, and not attacking him personally. I know that he's well liked in the community and in the locker room, but what was kind of awesome is that if you search, Troy Brouwer GoFundMe Buyout, that apparently somebody on Twitter put on the Twitter saying that I started a fundraiser for the Flames to buy out Troy Brouwer. And then actually Troy Brouwer saw that tweet and score one for Brouwer here, but then he said something about if you have the balls to post this, tag me in it. So, but yeah, so if who knows, maybe Troy Brouwer watched this video, and I'll say best of luck to you wherever your career takes you, if you decide to continue, or if there's any opportunities in the NHL elsewhere. Anyway, it's nice to know that you want to set up roots here in Calgary, and wish you all the best, and definitely see you as part of the Flames alumni. But anyway, if you enjoy everything that I post on my YouTube channel, make sure you hit likes and subscribe. And I think before the season starts, I'll do a recap on all the RFAs that the Flames signed, and our in-house UFAs, because there hasn't been much in the UFAs, but I can do a recap of that once we get closer to training camp, because there's still another month left and players can still sign elsewhere. But anyway, I'll see you at the next video.